The following video contains footage from the Endwalker Media Tour. As such, this footage is not representative of the final product, and you will find significant differences both visually and elsewhere. I do remind you, please do not take this as the final version, but at the same time, thank you to Square Enix for providing me with this opportunity, and I hope you enjoy this. So here we are on Reaper. Now, this is something that I'm probably going to upset a lot of people because I have absolutely no idea how to play this properly. That's my first admission. I really don't think the time that I had to play Reaper in the Media Tour was enough for me to actually grasp what was going on. Effectively, all I understand is that we have 2 meters to fill and effectively 3 different sets of rotations. Now, it was funny because it was mentioned but it doesn't seem to have a set rotation, which leads me to think there's like a priority system on this. It is incredibly flashy, and the spells and abilities look, well, insane, including the ability to teleport there and teleport back. I love that movement speed, that movement ability basically with regress there. I think that's cool. Threshold and regress, amazing. I think that as a gap closer, or the ability to use that to move around the platform is going to be exceptionally useful. When it comes to the rotation, I have no freaking idea. But that comes from me not really being a melee main, and I really didn't get it. I played this for quite a considerable amount of time, trying to get it, so that I had something to actually say here, but all I can show you is me pressing buttons that lit up, and what exactly they do in ToolTips. So I do apologize, but as you can see, it looks very, very flashy indeed. And I hope by better, by me playing this through repetition, I can actually learn it. In comparison, I found Sage incredibly easy to pick up, but I'm a healer main, so that's the difference really. But that looks cool as well. Look at that AoE. Wow. Absolutely awesome. I did want to include footage because I thought that's something that people would like to see the most of. Especially with all of those abilities there for the AoEs, and there's so much red and blue going on, isn't there? So speaking of that then, let's go on to the tooltips in particular for Reaper. I think that's where we have a chance in Hades to actually understand this. So first of all, the first ability at level 1 is called Slice. Very easy one, this one, just Slice. Has a range of 3 yards, a recast of 2.45 seconds, and is an instant cast. This delivers an attack with a potency of 300. This increases your soul gauge by 10. So that's increasing the soul gauge. At level 5, you get Waxing Slice. This delivers an attack with a potency of 140. Again, potencies aren't things we should be looking at too much here. And it combos obviously from Slice. So that's the second ability from that, with a potency of 380 on that combo, and the combo bonus increases your soul gauge by 10. So it's all about building the soul gauge. That's what I've basically understood about this. Next up, we have Shadow of Death at level 10. This deals an attack with a potency of 300. This has the additional effect of afflicting the target with Death's Design. This is a debuff, increasing the damage that you deal to that target by 10%. This lasts for 30 seconds. So this is something that every 2.47 seconds you want to refresh. It is effectively a debuff that you want to maintain so that you can maximize your uptime on that single target. The addition of that, the extra bit says it extends the duration of Death's Design by 30 seconds to a maximum of 60 seconds if you were to press it again, basically. So it puts Death's Design on it when you press it once, and then you can press it again to basically extend it to 60 seconds. So you can press that twice by the looks of it, to give yourself a 60-second debuff time if you wish to, but of course that's going to cost you that global. The additional effect of that then increases the soul gauge by 10 if a target is KO'd before the effect expires. So if you put Death's Design on it and it lasts for 30 seconds and you kill it during that time before that expires, then you'll get 10 points to your soul gauge. So if you're extending that to 60, there's a likelihood that might not die during that duration, or might actually die definitely during that duration, depending on what target. You're going to get that 10 points towards your soul gauge. So that's useful to know. At level 15, you get Harp, H-A-R-P-E, Harp or Harpy. Definitely Harp, I think. Really cool looking spell effect buttons on these, by the way. 25 range on this of Yarms, a 2.5 second recast and a 1.3 second cast timer. This deals unaspected damage with a potency of 300. So this is something that you can use at ranged. So if you teleport out with your ability to move out, what is it called, regress or whatever, then you can press Harp. You can basically do a ranged rotation as well. There's also Hell's Ingress, that's available at level 20. This quickly dashes 15 Yarms forward. So this is an indirect gap closer. This allows you to sprint basically in a direction, kind of similar to the dashes that Dancer have, basically. This also has the additional effect of allowing your next Harp to be cast immediately. So after you dash, you can actually cast Harp instantly. So if you're trying to get out of something, like I've just said, there's an AoE on the floor in melee, you press Hell's Ingress in a direction, and then you press Harp, which allows you to cast that instantly whilst you're moving. Perhaps there's, I don't know, a mechanic where you have to move out of melee and drop puddles around a room. Perfect example of when you would use Hell's Ingress, then Harp, to have that instant cast. Very, very nice. Hell's Egress, then, at level 20, is a dash 15 Yarms backwards. So this is the opposite, then, of going 15 Yarms forward. This goes 15 Yarms backwards. This is a drop back, a little bit like Disengage. This also has the additional effect of allowing Harp to be cast immediately. So what you can do, this actually shares a recast timer. So what you can't do, rather, is use both Ingress and Egress. You can only use one of those. So either dash direction in front of you or behind you, and it uses the same cooldown. But it leaves behind a Hell's Gate. So when you press Egress, it leaves behind a gate at a point of origin and grants the threshold buff to yourself, which allows you for 10 seconds to be able to press a button to return to that place, basically. And that's 20 seconds recast on that and is instant cast. So of course what you can do is you can jump out, wait a bit, and then jump back in with that portal. Very useful as a movement speed, movement ability in general, and just to like maneuver around mechanics. At level 25, you get Spinning Scythe. This is a weapon skill that's instant cast with a 2.47 recast. Delivers an attack with a potency of 140 to all nearby enemies. So this is your close range melee AoE. Has a range of 0 Yarms, of course. So you have to be right up in the grill of that enemy you're targeting, and has a radius of 5 Yarms. Very short radius, that one. But it has the additional effect of increasing that soul gauge of yours by 10 upon use. So that's how you're building your soul gauge if there's lots of AoE attacks needed. Infernal Slice is available at level 30, which is an instant cast. Delivers an attack with a potency of 140. This combos with Waxing Slice with a 460 combo potency, and also the combo bonus increases the soul gauge by 10. Again, all these things, the correct combos and execution of, will increase that soul gauge, which is what we're trying to do. At level 35, we get Wall of Death, W-H-O-R-L, Wall of Death, which is a weapon skill that's instant cast with a 2.47 recast timer on it, but delivers an attack with a potency of 100 to all nearby enemies. This has the additional effect of afflicting a target with Death's Design, that debuff we talked about before, increasing the damage you deal to that target by 10%. So this is actually an AoE version of what we looked at previously. So it's putting Death's Design that increases the damage you deal to those targets by 10% in an AoE around you. It's an AoE version. This lasts for 30 seconds, so you can do quite a lot of extra damage during that 30 seconds. And it also extends the duration of Death's Design if you press it again to a maximum of 60 seconds. And again, the additional effect of your soul gauge going up by 10 if the targets are KO'd before the effect expires. So this is really useful, of course, of building up your soul gauge on trash and then delivering soul attacks later on other enemies, basically. That's how I would use it personally. Arcane Crest, then, available at level 40, is an instant cast with a 30-second recast time. This grants Crest of Time Borrowed to self. This is a buff, creating a barrier that nullifies damage totaling up to 10% of your current maximum health, or HP. This lasts for 5 seconds and grants Crest of a Return to the Self and nearby party members within a radius of 15 yards when the barrier is completely absorbed. So you put this on, you absorb your 10% of your maximum health, and then it will place a thing called Crest of the Returned, which is a barrier on everyone else. Sorry, it's not a barrier, it's a heal. It's a heal. Wow, it's a heal that actually gradually restores health. So that's a regen. So the shield expires on yourself, and then in 15 yards around you, your party members get a regen ability. It's only got a cure potency of 100 and lasts for 15 seconds. But that's pretty interesting, isn't it? An AoE regen. Very, very curious. Quite support then, isn't it, that? Let's go on to level 45. You get Nightmare Scythe, which is an instant cast with a 2.47 second recast, but delivers an attack with a potency of 120 to nearby enemies. This combos then from Spinning Scythe that we talked about earlier with a combo potency of 180, and the combo bonus increases your soul gauge by 10. So there we go. You press Spinning Scythe and then Nightmare Scythe. This seems to be part of your AoE rotation. At level 50, you gain access to Bloodstork, S-T-A-L-K, stalk, as in like a stalk of a plant. This is an instant cast with a 1 second recast timer that summons your avatar to deliver an attack with a potency of 400. This also grants Soul Reaver as a buff that lasts for 30 seconds. During Soul Reaver, stat count will be reduced to 1 when already under the effect of this buff, and it will cost 50 soul gauge to actually use as well. This action changes to Lemurs Slice, apparently, while under the effect of Enshrouded, and we'll come to that in a mo. But there we go, that's what Bloodstork is. It's basically unleashing damage from your avatar. The Grim Swathe at level 55 is to summon your avatar to deliver an attack with a potency of 140 to all enemies in a cone before you. This grants Soul Reaver once again, which is the 30-second buff that has the whole stat count will reduce to 1 when you're already under the effect of Soul Reaver, and changes to Lemurs Scythe when under the effect of Enshrouded. Enshrouded then when you fully go all the way to being one with the avatar. But yes, that's a cone attack. Then we've got Soul Slice at level 60, an instant cast that has a 30-second charge time. It comes with 2 charges maximum and delivers an attack with a potency of 460. The additional effect is to increase your soul gauge by 50, so a significant amount. This is the one that Yoshi P was using in a job action trailer to generate basically 50 soul gauge, half a gauge, to actually to fill that up to unleash Enshrouded and all the rest of it. It has 2 charges and shares a recast timer with Soul Scythe. Speaking of Soul Scythe, that you get at level 65, which is a AoE version of Soul Slice. This does an attack to all enemies nearby with a potency of 180, a radius of 5 yards, and a charge time of 30 seconds. And it shares, obviously, a recast timer with Soul Slice. You have 2 charges and gives you soul gauge increased by 50. So you can press either Soul Slice or Soul Scythe, and it doesn't interrupt your AoE or single target rotation. So if you need to generate, say for instance at the start of the fight or throughout there as a cooldown, you need to gain more soul gauge, you just press that button as part of your rotation, and then it seems that you have access to the other more powerful abilities whilst not interrupting, which is nice because a lot of other jobs in the past have had a button like this that's not been part of their rotation. So it's nice to actually do damage at the same time as being a useful cooldown button. Then we have Gibbet at level 70. This is an instant cast, recast timer of 2.47 seconds, and delivers an attack with a potency of 460 when executed from a target's flank. So this is the first positional that you have to worry about. Enhanced Gibbet potency is 460, flank enhanced potency is 520. So you obviously want to be at the flank of the enemy when you are using this. It also has the additional effect of granting Enhanced Gallows, which is a buff that lasts for 60 seconds, where the action of Bloodstork changes to Unveiled Gallows, while under the effect of Enhanced Gallows through this buff. The additional effect increases the soul gauge by 10 and can only be executed while under the effect of Soul Reaver. So this is how it all works. If you see how this works, it kind of, at least on paper, it's somewhat understandable, although still in practice I suck at this pretty badly. I need some practice. And it says the action changes to Void Reaping when under the effect of Enshrouded. So Enshrouded basically does affect a lot of spells, as you'll see. Gallows then delivers an attack with a potency of 400, is instant cast with a 2.47 second recast timer. It has 400 potency attack, 460 when executed from a target's rear. So another positional, this time from the back of the boss. The enhanced Gallows potency is 460, rear enhanced potency is 520, and also grants enhanced Gibbet for 60 seconds, which we talked about previously, with the Bloodstork changing to Unveiled Gibbet, and also increasing the soul gauge by 10. This obviously changes to Cross Reaping when under the effect of Enshrouded. So that's what that ability turns into. So when we see those abilities, that's what they turn into. We've got Guillotine, which is available also at level 70, which is an instant cast. This delivers an attack with a potency of 200 to enemies in a cone before you. This increases soul gauge by 10 and can only be executed while under the effect of Soul Reaver. So this is basically the second set of things that you have to do whilst you're under that buff that we talked about. And action changes to Grim Reaping when under the effect of Enshrouded. So basically, you've got your... Let's just go over this very briefly for people confused like myself. You've got a set of abilities, and then you've got a second set of abilities under the buff of the previous abilities. Then you have a third rotation as well. Or at least a third set of abilities, not necessarily a rotation. Interesting. Next, we have an Arcane Circle ability at level 72. This is on a 120 second recast. This is instant cast. It increases damage dealt by yourself and nearby party members by 3% for 20 seconds. This grants the Circle of Sacrifice to the self and the nearby party members for 5 seconds. And also grants Blood-Sown Circle to self for 6 seconds. Basically, the Circle of Sacrifice gives you, when you and your party members under this effect successfully land a weapon skill or cast a spell, the Reaper who applied it may be granted a stack of Immortal Sacrifice, up to a maximum of 8 of those buffs for 30 seconds. And also Blood-Sown Circle's effect allows you to accumulate stacks of Immortal Sacrifice from party members under the effect of Circle of Sacrifice. Yes, this is where it gets a little bit confusing for my brain as well, if you're reading this. Or maybe you're finding this very easy to understand. I envy you. I need to practice this. But that's a nice cooldown to have if I truly understood the stack thing. Gluttony then, available at level 76, is an instant cast with a 60-second recast timer that summons your avatar to deal unaspected damage to a target and all enemies nearby it with a potency of 500 for the first enemy and 25% less for all remaining enemies. This grants 2 stacks of Soul Reaver for 30 seconds and costs 50 soul gauge. So these are things that you dump your soul gauge into to generate the other resource, which is obviously Soul Reaver. Then we have Enshroud at level 80. This is the big ability. This offers your flesh as a vessel to your avatar, gaining maximum stacks of Lemurs Shroud. This lasts for 30 seconds, and certain actions cannot be executed while playing host to your avatar, and will cost you 50 soul gauge. This is where you're basically being possessed, and all of the things that required you to be enshrouded or under the Shroud buff that we talked about. That's basically what you're building up to let the avatar flow into you to become one. That's when you get it, level 80, with a 15-second recast, but there's a lot of build-up to use that. Obviously, 50 Shroud gauge is quite a bit. Next, we have Soul Sow, we're at level 82, that grants Soul Sow buff to self, changing the action to Harvest Moon. The cast time is instant when used outside of battle. So that's another ability that I don't really fully understand. We'll get to that. Plentiful Harvest at level 88, an instant cast, delivers an attack to all enemies in a straight line before you with a potency of 520 for the first and 60% less for all remaining enemies. This will cost 1 stack of Immortal Sacrifice. The potency increases up to 800 as stacks of Immortal Sacrifice exceed the minimum cost, and the additional effect is increasing the Shroud gauge by 50. So that's how you're building up your Shroud gauge. Cannot be executed while under the effects of Blood-Sown Circle from earlier, and consumes all stacks of Immortal Sacrifice upon execution. Holy moly, this is quite a complex class. At level 90, we have Communio, which is on a 2.5 second recast, 1.3 second cast timer. At level 90, you get this. It deals unaspected damage to target and all enemies nearby it with a potency of 1000 for the first enemy and 60% less for all remaining enemies. Enshrouded effect expires upon the execution of this, so this is your finisher. This requires at least one stack of Lemurs Shroud to execute. So you're building up that enshrouded thing. You want to get the most out of that as possible before the timer drops off, and that until Shrouded gets removed. And the last thing you do before it runs out is you press Communio, and in a 5-yarm radius, a range of 25 yarms, 1000 potency for that first enemy and 60% less for anything else. That's a devastating finisher. I think you don't need me to remind you what 1000 potency is like in this game. Unveiled Gibbet then, so we're going on to the Unveiled version. So we've got Unveiled Gibbet, which is summoning your avatar to deliver an attack with a potency of 400, granting Soul Reaver for 30 seconds. Stat counts will be reduced to 1 when already under the effect of Soul Reaver, and costs 50 Soul Gauge, and of course can only be executed under the effect of Enhanced Gibbet. And you cannot put that on, obviously, a hotbar is what it changes into. Then, obviously, as we talked about earlier, Unveiled Gallows at level 70. Summon your avatar to deliver an attack with a potency of 400, granting Soul Reaver for 30 seconds. Yada, yada, yada. The same before. Regress, then. This is the movement back to the Hellgate that you place down that we talked about earlier. You get this at level 74, the ability to teleport back. This moves instantly to the Hellgate left behind by you. Can only be executed while under the effect of Threshold. So obviously you do tax, you press that, and then you can use it. Again, you can't put this on a hotbar because the previous ability turns into this effectively. Void Reaping then, this is a big one. This is level 80. This is we're going on to those abilities now. Instant cast, recast of 1.5 seconds. Can't be placed on a hotbar. This is what a button turns into, which delivers an attack with a potency of 460. Enhanced Void Reaping potency is 520, and has the additional effect of granting Enhanced Cross Reaping for 30 seconds. It also grants Void Shroud and can only be executed while under the effect of Enshrouded. So yeah, this is one of your Shroud abilities. Recast timer cannot be affected by status effects or gear attributes and costs 1 Lemurs Shroud. So bear in mind, this is one of the big things that you want to dump. So you get to choose how you dump your Lemurs Shroud. Cross Reaping then is an attack with a potency of 460. The Enhanced Cross Reaping potency is 520 with the effect of granting Enhanced Void Reaping for 30 seconds and grants Void Shroud. Obviously needs Lemurs Shroud and uses one charge of Lemurs Shroud to execute. Then we have Grim Reaping, which is another level 80 ability. Again, you can't put it on a hotbar, it's what that changes into, and delivers an attack with a potency of 200 to all enemies in a cone before you. So as you can see, you've got different types of attack, some based on AoE, some single target. This also grants Void Shroud, only the effect of Enshrouded allows you to use it, and uses 1 Lemurs Shroud. Fairly basic to understand. Then we've got Harvest Moon at 82, which deals unaspected damage to target and all enemies nearby it with a potency of 600 for the first enemy and 50% less for remaining enemies. Can only be executed while under the effect of Soul Sow. So the button we talked about earlier, Soul Sow, you press it, and then Harvest Moon is the button it turns into. So a lot of buttons on Reaper turn into other buttons as a result of buttons being pressed and also combos being executed. It's quite complex. Level 86, we get Lemurs Slice, which costs 2 Void Shroud to deliver an attack with a potency of 200. Yeah, that's a nice damage. Nice sort of claw spell icon as well. And finally, Lemurs Scythe, which is an instant cast with a cast of 2 Void Shroud cost as the final ability there. I think you'll agree that it's quite a complex one, and you can't blame me too much for not really understanding it fully. I'll be perfectly honest with you. This one took me really, really quite aback. I was surprised positively. I look forward to learning in the future, but I was very confused throughout the play test. But hopefully these tooltips and the explanations are helping. Me reading it aloud is actually helping me a little bit. So let's look at the traits then before we finish off. Soul Gauge level 50 allows for the soul gauge accumulation upon the landing of certain actions or defeating enemies under the effect of Death's design. We talked about that earlier. Death Scene Mastery increases the potency of Slice to 300, Waxing Slice to 140, Shadow of Death to 300, Harp to 300, Spinning Scythe to 140, Infernal Slice to 140, Wall of Death to 100, and Nightmare Scythe to 120. So that's available at level 60. That's where everything gets upgraded potency-wise. Enhanced Avatar as a trait grants the effect of Soul Reaver upon successfully landing your Bloodstork or Grim Swathe. That's how you gain Soul Reaper, that buff that you need for other things. Hell's Gate then is a trait upon executing Hell's Ingress or Hell's Egress, as we talked about, the forward or back movement. It leaves behind a Hell Gate to grant Threshold, which allows for 10 seconds during that for you to teleport back. Basically, it says Hell's Ingress changes to Regress after executing Hell's Egress and vice versa. So whichever one you press, the button changes back to a teleport back to the location. In fact, both buttons on your bar, Egress and Ingress, will both change to that. So when you've used them, you'll have two of the same ability on your screen at once that do the same thing, effectively. Tempered Soul at level 78 allows for the accumulation of charges for consecutive uses of Soul Slice and Soul Scythe with a maximum charges of 2. That starts at level 78. Then at level 80, we have the allocation for Shroud Gauge accumulation upon the landing of Gibbet, Gallows, or Guillotine. So as you can see, you only gain access to Gibbet, Gallows, or Guillotine at level 80 onwards. So you've got plenty of time to learn things up until that point. Then you've got Enhanced Arcane Crest at 84, which grants Crest of a return to self and party members, gradually restoring health over time. This effect is only granted when the Crest of Time borrowed barrier is completely absorbed. We talked about this. Basically, 10% barrier gets removed by damage. Everybody around you gets a Cure Potency 100 heal over time, a regen basically for 15 seconds, which is quite an interesting one. Definitely a support role type thing. Next we got level 86, you get Enhanced Shroud, which grants Void Shroud upon landing Void Reaping, Cross Reaping, or Grim Reaping. So at 86 you get Void Shroud and you're able to then execute the Void Shroud abilities. And speaking of which, at level 88 we get Enhanced Arcane Circle, which grants Circle of Sacrifice for you and nearby party members upon executing the Arcane Circle for 5 seconds. When you and your party members under this effect successfully land a weapon skill or cast a spell, you may gain a stack of Immortal Sacrifice up to a maximum of 8. This lasts for 30 seconds. This also grants Circle to self, allowing you to receive stacks of Immortal Sacrifice from party members under the effect of your Circle of Sacrifice. And that's pretty much how that all works together. Complicated or not, that's pretty much the bare bones of it. It's an incredibly well designed job and one that fills me with complete dread. A lot of people I know are looking at probably flipping to Reaper as their main, and I wish them honestly the best of luck. I'm sure it will look absolutely insanely cool when people who know what they're doing have had some time with this and pull it off. But like I say, all I could do was apologize, show you footage, and go, I did not really spend enough time on it. But that's pretty much the tooltips. That's my experience with it. Was high learning curve, but probably quite simple once you get into it. 3 sets of basically abilities that rely on buffs. Well, the first set obviously doesn't. The second set requires a buff from one of the abilities to turn into 3. Then you have the Shroud abilities. Then you have all of the stuff to do with your avatar. It's going to be very much positional based. So you've got that to worry about for some of the abilities. You've got to build up this meter, well, effectively 2 meters. You've got your normal attacks to build that up. Yeah, positionals plus buffs plus 3 sets of abilities plus avatar. It's probably going to take a while for me to really understand what exactly I've just read, let alone anything else. But I don't want to scare you. I'm sure a lot of people will have a lot of really cool guides on this. Some people will already say that they're confident enough to give you a proper guide, and I really can't wait to watch those myself. Other content creators probably will fit into this shoe a lot easier, whereas I'm the sort of person that fits straight into Sage. That's really my cup of tea. So if you want to hear about Sage, come talk to me. I'll tell you all about it. Anyway, much love. Let me know what you think about the repertoire of Reaper and all of the things we've talked about, and I'll see you all next time.